Get him out of here. Two security guards grabbed Ethan by the arms before he could take another step toward the wedding hall. Guests stopped talking. Several phones rose into the air, eager to capture the humiliation. Damien leaned back in his chair with a smug smile while Sophia folded her arms, refusing to look at Ethan. Emily rushed forward. Please, don't do this. He hasn't done anything wrong. Her father pointed toward the exit without hesitation. He doesn't belong at this wedding. The guards tightened their grip. Ethan didn't resist. He simply glanced around the room, calmly meeting the eyes of every family member who had laughed at him over the past 3 months. Not one of them looked ashamed. Then, the sound of tires screeching echoed outside. One black SUV. Then another. Then a third. The guards paused. Every guest turned toward the entrance. Several men in tailored suits stepped out, scanning the crowd until one of them spotted Ethan. He hurried forward. Sir, the board members have arrived. They're waiting for your approval. The room fell silent. Damien's confident smile slowly disappeared. Nobody understood what was happening. But to understand why the poorest man in the room was being treated like royalty by complete strangers, everything had started 3 months earlier. If you've ever seen someone judged because of the clothes they wore or the car they drove, take a second to like this video. And if you enjoy stories with unforgettable twists, subscribe now because the ending of this one changes everything. 3 months earlier, Emily stood outside a small neighborhood cafe, smiling as Ethan climbed out of an old white delivery van. The van rattled as he shut the door. Its faded paint and dented bumper had become the family's favorite joke. Emily didn't care. You made it, she said with a smile. I told you I would. He handed her a small paper bag. I remembered your favorite pastries. Emily laughed. You always remember the little things. Little things matter. She squeezed his hand before they walked inside. Across the street, a bright red luxury sports car rolled to a stop. Damien stepped out wearing an expensive suit, sunglasses, and a watch that sparkled in the afternoon sun. People immediately noticed him. Even strangers stared. Sophia climbed out of the passenger seat with a proud smile. When the sisters entered the cafe with their fiancés, every member of the family looked up. Emily's mother stood first. There they are. She hugged Sophia tightly before turning toward Damien. My future son-in-law. Her smile widened. You spoil us every single time. Damien handed over several expensive gift boxes. A little something for everyone. Gasps filled the room as designer labels appeared one after another. Emily's father couldn't hide his excitement. This watch must have cost a fortune. Damien shrugged. When family is involved, money isn't important. Everyone applauded. Meanwhile, Ethan quietly placed the small bag of pastries on the table beside Grandma. I remembered these were your favorite. Grandma's eyes softened. You remembered. You told me once. She smiled warmly. No one else remembered. Before she could thank him again, the rest of the family crowded around Damien, admiring his gifts and praising his generosity. Ethan simply took an empty chair and remained silent. The conversations around Damien grew louder with every passing minute. Emily watched as her father proudly lifted the expensive watch for everyone to admire. This, he said with a grin, is what success looks like. Several relatives nodded in agreement. One of Sophia's aunts glanced at Ethan before whispering just loudly enough for others to hear. And then there's this one. A few people chuckled. Ethan pretended not to notice. Instead, he poured a cup of tea for Grandma before serving himself. Grandma smiled. Thank you, dear. Emily noticed the contrast. One man was buying everyone's attention. The other was quietly earning one person's appreciation. Damien leaned back comfortably. So, Ethan, he asked, how's the delivery business? It's going well. Busy. Busy enough. Damien laughed. That's one way to avoid saying how much you earn. Several relatives laughed with him. Emily's smile faded. Ethan works hard, she said. Damien raised his hands innocently. I wasn't insulting him. I was just making conversation. Sophia slipped her arm through Damien's. My fiancé manages companies. Their worlds are just different. Emily looked directly at her sister. Different doesn't mean better. Sophia shrugged. Maybe not. But it certainly pays better. The table erupted in laughter again. Only Grandma remained silent. She looked at Ethan. Were you able to fix your shoulder? You hurt it helping me carry those groceries last week. Ethan smiled. It's much better now. Emily blinked. You never told me your shoulder was injured. There wasn't much to tell. Grandma frowned. He carried everything from the market to my house. 3 trips. I told him to leave some for me, but he wouldn't. Emily looked around the table. Did anyone else know Grandma needed help? Silence. Her father cleared his throat. We've all been busy. So was Ethan, Grandma replied softly. Yet he came. An awkward silence settled over the room before Damien quickly changed the subject. Actually, I have exciting news. Everyone immediately turned toward him. Sophia beamed with pride. We've booked the Grand Regency ballroom for the wedding. Gasps spread across the room. That's the most expensive venue in the city. It must have cost a fortune. Damien smiled modestly. When it's the woman you love, no price is too high. Sophia squeezed his hand. Emily smiled politely. I'm happy for both of you. Her mother sighed dramatically. If only Emily had found someone equally ambitious. Emily looked up. What does that mean? Her mother hesitated only briefly. It means your sister chose a man who can give her security. Emily answered calmly. Ethan gives me peace. Her father shook his head. Peace doesn't pay mortgages. Damien chuckled. She's young. She'll understand eventually. Ethan finally spoke. Money is important. Everyone looked at him. But it's not the only thing that determines a person's value. Damien leaned forward. Easy to say when you don't have much of it. The laughter returned. Emily could feel her cheeks burning. She wanted to defend Ethan again, but he gently placed a hand over hers beneath the table. His expression remained calm. There was no anger. No embarrassment. Only patience. After lunch, the family gathered outside for photographs. Naturally, Damien stood in the center beside Sophia. Emily and Ethan were pushed toward the edge. Move a little farther, one cousin said. We need the bride and groom to stand out. As everyone adjusted their positions, Grandma suddenly lost her balance on the front steps. Her walking stick slipped from her hand. Before anyone reacted, Ethan rushed forward. He caught her before she fell. Easy, he said gently. I've got you. Grandma smiled gratefully. You always seem to appear at the right moment. Damien barely looked over. He was too busy checking his reflection in the window of his sports car. Emily noticed. So did Grandma. As they prepared to leave, Damien tossed his car keys into the air. Anyone want to see what 600 horsepower feels like? Every younger cousin shouted excitedly. Within seconds, they surrounded him. No one noticed Ethan quietly helping Grandma into her taxi. As the taxi pulled away, Grandma reached through the open window. Ethan. He stepped closer. Yes. Never stop being the man you are. He smiled warmly. I won't. Unknown to everyone watching from the driveway, a black sedan had been parked across the street the entire afternoon. Inside sat a middle-aged man in a tailored suit. He had observed every interaction without saying a word. When Ethan finally walked toward his old delivery van, the man picked up his phone. They've made their choices, he said quietly. There was a brief pause. Yes, continue the evaluation. Ethan's phone vibrated. He glanced at the message, slipped it back into his pocket without reading it aloud, and drove away as if nothing unusual had happened. None of the family noticed. But the test had only just begun. If you think kindness is worth more than appearances, let me know in the comments. And if you're wondering why Ethan stayed so calm despite everything that happened today, keep watching, because the truth is far bigger than anyone in that family could imagine. 3 weeks passed, and the wedding preparations only made the family's attitude worse. Every gathering became another opportunity to compare Damien and Ethan. Damien arrived in luxury cars. Ethan still drove the same battered white delivery van. To the family, that was all the proof they needed. One evening, Emily finally asked the question that had been weighing on her heart. Why do you let them treat you like this? Ethan smiled as he stirred his coffee. Because people reveal who they really are when they think you have nothing to offer. Emily reached across the table and held his hand. I don't care what they think. I know. And if they never accept you? He looked into her eyes. Then I'll still have you. Emily smiled. Always. Wedding day arrived. The Grand Regency ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers, expensive flowers, and elegantly dressed guests. Damien basked in the attention. Sophia couldn't stop smiling. Everything looked perfect. Until Ethan walked in wearing the same simple navy suit he had worn to several family gatherings. The whispers started immediately. He couldn't even buy a new suit. I told you Emily deserved better. Sophia rolled her eyes. I can't believe he actually came dressed like that. Damien smirked. At least he looks clean. The laughter spread through the room. Emily stood beside Ethan anyway. She wasn't embarrassed. She was proud. Just before the ceremony began, Ethan quietly approached Emily's father. I'd like a moment to congratulate the couple. Her father frowned. You've embarrassed this family long enough. I only wanted to wish them well. I said no. Damien stood and added loudly. Maybe he wants to ask guests for delivery work. More laughter. Emily stepped forward. That's enough. Her father raised his voice. No. This ends today. He pointed toward the entrance. Get him out of here. Two security guards immediately grabbed Ethan by both arms. Guests pulled out their phones. Emily fought back tears. Please. He hasn't done anything wrong. Her father refused to listen. He doesn't belong at this wedding. Ethan never argued. He simply looked around the room. At every face. Every cousin who had laughed. Every aunt who had mocked him. Every person who had judged him by a suit, a van, and a paycheck. Then came the sound that silenced the ballroom. Tires screeched outside. One black SUV. Then another. Then a third. The doors opened. Several executives in tailored suits entered with quiet confidence. The oldest among them walked directly toward Ethan. The security guards instinctively let go. The man stopped in front of Ethan and bowed his head slightly. Sir, the board members have arrived. The acquisition documents are ready. We're waiting for your final approval. The room froze. Damien's smile vanished. Emily's father stared in disbelief. What is this? The executive looked at him. You don't know. He turned back to Ethan. This is Mr. Ethan Carter, founder and majority owner of Carter Logistics Holdings. He has spent the last 3 months personally evaluating the leadership and values of the families connected to our newest partnership. The room became painfully quiet. The executive continued. Our company doesn't invest only in businesses. We invest in people. Ethan chose to live anonymously because character can't be measured when everyone knows your bank account. Every guest looked at Ethan differently now. The man added one final sentence. The company you all admired Damien for managing. He glanced toward Damien. Was one of the businesses being considered for acquisition? Damien's face turned pale. Emily's father swallowed hard. You own it. Ethan nodded calmly. As of this morning. Damien's confidence completely disappeared. I didn't know. No, Ethan replied quietly. You only knew what you wanted to see. Emily's father stepped forward, his voice shaking. Ethan, we're sorry. We judged you unfairly. Ethan looked around the room once more. You didn't judge my clothes. You judged my worth. No amount of money changes the words you spoke or the choices you made. Grandma slowly stood from her seat. With tears in her eyes, she walked over and hugged Ethan. I knew who you were. Ethan smiled. No, Grandma. You knew who I wasn't pretending to be. She nodded proudly. The richest heart in the room. Emily slipped her hand into Ethan's. I would have chosen you if you had nothing. He smiled at her. That's why you'll share everything. The executives waited patiently as Ethan turned back toward them. Cancel the partnership. The lead executive nodded. Immediately, sir. Damien's shoulders slumped. Years of ambition disappeared in a single sentence. Ethan wasn't celebrating. He wasn't seeking revenge. He simply looked at Emily's family. I truly hope one day you learn to recognize kindness before wealth. Then he offered his arm to Emily. Ready? She smiled. I've been ready from the beginning. Together, they walked out of the ballroom. Not because they had been thrown out, but because they had nothing left to prove. Behind them, the room remained silent. For the first time, everyone understood the lesson they had ignored from the very beginning. The poorest-looking man had been the richest person in the room, and the greatest fortune he possessed was never his company. It was his character. If this story reminded you that appearances can be deceiving, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more unforgettable stories, and tell us in the comments. Have you ever seen someone judged by their appearance, only to discover they were nothing like people assumed?